we'll uncover the secrets of Cleopatra's forbidden romances, her cunning political maneuvers, and the dramatic fall of an empire that forever changed history. You don't want to miss this spellbinding tale. Welcome to this episode of Past Portraits, Stories of Remarkable Lives, where today we'll unravel the story of Cleopatra, the last pharaoh of ancient Egypt. I'll guide you through the intricate details of her life, her love, and her legacy. It inspired countless works of art, literature, and film. But who was the real Cleopatra? Let's go back over 2,000 years to the Ptolemaic dynasty to find out. You are on Curiosity Corner. Chapter 1: The Ptolemaic Dynasty and Cleopatra's Heritage. Let me take you back to the time of the Ptolemaic dynasty, founded by Ptolemy Soter, one of Alexander the Great's generals. When Alexander died in 323 BCE, his empire was divided among his generals, and Ptolemy established himself as the ruler of Egypt. Interestingly, the Ptolemies adopted Egyptian customs and religion to maintain power and legitimacy, but they never let go of their Greek language and culture. Now, Cleopatra VII, born in 69 BCE, was the daughter of Ptolemy XII Auletes. Her family was part of a long line of rulers notorious for their infighting and strategic marriages, and trust me, Cleopatra's own family was no exception. You might find this surprising, but one striking aspect of the Ptolemaic dynasty was their practice of incestuous marriages. They adopted this custom from the ancient Egyptian pharaohs, who believed that marrying close relatives preserved the purity of their bloodline. And so, the Ptolemies continued this tradition, with many sibling marriages occurring throughout the dynasty. Take, for example, the marriage between Ptolemy II and his sister, Arsinoe II. Their union was celebrated with great fanfare and even commemorated on coins, depicting the siblings as a divine couple. This practice of sibling marriage persisted within the Ptolemaic dynasty, and Cleopatra's own parents were likely siblings or close relatives. When Cleopatra ascended to the throne, she followed this tradition by marrying her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII. However, as you might expect, the sibling rivalry between Cleopatra and her brother eventually led to a power struggle and her forced exile in Syria. And that, my friends, set the stage for the dramatic events that followed her in life. Chapter 2: Early Life and Education. Picture this: Cleopatra growing up in the vibrant city of Alexandria, the capital of Ptolemaic Egypt. With Greek, Egyptian, and other cultures blending together, she was exposed to diverse customs, religious practices, and political ideologies from an early age. This unique environment helped her understand and navigate the complex social and political dynamics that would later define her reign. Now, as a member of the ruling family, Cleopatra received an outstanding education at the famous Library and Museum of Alexandria. This intellectual hub housed some of the most renowned scholars of the time, who tutored the young princess in various subjects. Not only did Cleopatra study traditional subjects like philosophy, mathematics, astronomy, and medicine, but she also received specialized training in governance, diplomacy, and military strategy. This comprehensive education equipped her with the knowledge and skills necessary to effectively rule Egypt and deal with foreign powers. One of Cleopatra's most impressive talents was her linguistic prowess. She was a gifted linguist, fluent in several languages such as Egyptian, Greek, Latin, Hebrew, and Aramaic. This set her apart from other family members as she was the first Ptolemaic ruler to speak Egyptian fluently. This allowed her to communicate directly with her subjects and cultivate a closer relationship with them, unlike her Greek-speaking predecessors who relied on interpreters. Her mastery of multiple languages enabled her to engage in diplomacy and negotiate treaties without intermediaries, giving her a significant advantage in her dealings with foreign powers. Cleopatra's linguistic abilities were crucial in her relationships with influential Roman leaders like Julius Caesar and Mark Antony. By speaking their native Latin, she could communicate with them on a personal level, establishing trust and forging strong alliances. Additionally, her knowledge of Hebrew and Aramaic allowed her to maintain diplomatic ties with the neighboring kingdoms of Judea and Nabatea, further showcasing her skill as an intelligent and capable diplomat. Chapter 3: Ascension and Early Reign. In 51 BC, after her father's death, Cleopatra ascended to the throne alongside her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII, as co-regent. However, their partnership didn't last long. Tensions between the siblings escalated, fueled by court intrigues and competing factions fighting for power. Cleopatra and her brother had fundamentally different visions for Egypt, and their disagreements resulted in a power struggle within the royal court. The situation got worse because of their advisors, who had their own ambitions and tried to manipulate the young rulers for their benefit. Cleopatra's strong-willed nature and desire for sole power made it difficult for her brother's faction to control her, increasing hostility and suspicion. Eventually, tensions reached a breaking point, and Cleopatra's opponents gained the upper hand, forcing her into exile in 48 BCE. Despite this setback, she was determined to reclaim her throne and sought a powerful ally who could help her regain control of Egypt. Enter Julius Caesar, the Roman general and statesman. Caesar was pursuing his rival, Pompey, who had fled to Egypt. Cleopatra recognized Caesar's influence and military prowess and devised a bold plan to secure his support. To get a private audience with Caesar, Cleopatra famously had herself smuggled into his presence, wrapped in a carpet, or, according to some accounts, a linen sack. This daring move caught Caesar's attention and allowed her to plead her case directly. Cleopatra's intelligence, charisma, and determination impressed Caesar, and he agreed to help her regain her throne. That marked the beginning of their strategic alliance and romantic relationship. Chapter 4. Relationship with Julius Caesar. Cleopatra's alliance with Julius Caesar was not only strategic, but also romantic. As an incredibly skilled diplomat, she saw the potential benefits of joining forces with the powerful Roman general. In exchange for his support, Cleopatra provided Caesar with valuable resources and political assistance, which was crucial as he was locked in a civil war against Pompey. Let me take you back to 47 BCE, when Caesar's troops, supported by Cleopatra, fought a series of battles against her brother's forces in Egypt. The climax of this conflict was the Battle of the Nile, which ended with the defeat and drowning of Ptolemy XIII. This left Cleopatra as the undisputed ruler of Egypt. During these turbulent times, Cleopatra and Caesar fell in love, and she later gave birth to their son, Caesarion. After her brother's defeat, Cleopatra went to Rome with Caesar, and they lived a life of luxury and opulence. Caesar was fascinated by Egyptian culture and introduced many of its aspects to Rome, which only enhanced Cleopatra's status and influence in the city. But their relationship didn't go unnoticed. The Roman elite started to grow uneasy about Cleopatra's political ambitions and her potential power over Caesar. Unfortunately, Caesar's increasing power and relationship with Cleopatra ultimately led to his tragic end. In 44 BCE, a group of Roman senators, fearing that Caesar intended to crown himself king, conspired to assassinate him. They executed their plans on the Ides of March, stabbing Caesar to death in the theater of Pompeii. The assassination of Caesar sent shockwaves through Rome and drastically changed the political landscape. With her powerful ally gone and her position in Rome uncertain, Cleopatra returned to Egypt to strengthen her rule and protect her young son's interests. Little did she know that the events surrounding Caesar's death would eventually lead her to another fateful encounter with an influential Roman, Mark Antony. Chapter 5. Alliance with Mark Antony. In 41 BCE, Cleopatra formed a new alliance with Mark Antony, a Roman general and politician who, along with Octavian, sought to avenge Caesar's death and consolidate power in the Roman Republic. As one of the members of the Second Triumvirate, Mark Antony controlled the eastern provinces of the Roman Empire, making him a valuable ally for Cleopatra. Their alliance began when Mark Antony summoned Cleopatra to meet him in Tarsus, a city in modern-day Turkey. Cleopatra, ever the diplomat, arrived in a lavishly decorated ship, adorned in the guise of the goddess Aphrodite. This impressive display of wealth and power captivated Mark Antony, and their alliance was initially political. Still, like her relationship with Caesar, it soon turned romantic. The alliance between Cleopatra and Mark Antony brought significant benefits to Egypt. Together, they expanded Egypt's territory and influence in the Mediterranean region, seizing control of key trade routes and resources. The combined forces of Egypt and Mark Antony's Roman legions proved formidable military power. Their partnership facilitated the knowledge, culture, and technology exchange between Egypt and Rome. Cleopatra and Mark Antony had 3 children together, twins Alexander Helios and Cleopatra Selene II, and a son named Ptolemy Philadelphus. Through these children, they sought to establish a long-lasting dynastic connection between Egypt and Rome, further solidifying their political alliance. In 34 BCE, Mark Antony held a grand ceremony known as the Donations of Alexandria. During this event, he publicly declared his support for Cleopatra and acknowledged their children as his own. He also granted significant territories to their offsprings, including parts of the Eastern Mediterranean and North Africa. This act not only confirmed the strength of their alliance, but also demonstrated Egypt's resurgence as a significant power in the Mediterranean world. Sadly, this alliance and the donations of Alexandria would ultimately lead to conflict with Octavian, who perceived Cleopatra and Mark Antony's growing power as a direct threat to Rome and his ambitions. Chapter 6: The Battle of Actium and the Fall of Cleopatra. Octavian, who later became Augustus Caesar, saw Cleopatra and Mark Antony's growing power and influence as a direct threat to Rome and his own political ambitions. He was skillful at manipulating public opinion, using Roman propaganda to paint Cleopatra as this cunning and dangerous foreign queen who was out to conquer Rome. Octavian even accused Mark Antony of being bewitched by Cleopatra and betraying Rome for Egypt, turning the Roman Senate and people against him. In 31 BCE, Octavian made it official and declared war on Cleopatra and Mark Antony. But instead of making it look like a civil war among Romans, he framed it as a war against Egypt. This strategic move helped Octavian rally the Roman people and military behind him, making him look like the defender of Rome against foreign invaders. The big showdown between Octavian's forces and the combined armies of Cleopatra and Mark Antony happened at the Battle of Actium in 31 BCE. It was mainly a naval battle with hundreds of ships on both sides, but even though Cleopatra and Mark Antony had the upper hand at first, Octavian's navy, led by his talented general Agrippa, outmaneuvered and defeated them. After losing at Actium, Mark Antony and Cleopatra returned to Alexandria to make their last stand. As Octavian's forces closed in, Mark Antony got fake news of Cleopatra's death, and, in despair, he took his own life by falling on his sword. When Cleopatra found out about Mark Antony's death, she also chose suicide. Legend has it that she let a poisonous asp bite her, but some scholars think she might have used poison instead. Cleopatra's death ended the Ptolemaic dynasty, and Egypt became a province of the Roman Empire. Octavian took control of Egypt and its vast wealth, securing his position as Rome's undisputed ruler. Cleopatra's son, with Julius Caesar, Caesarion, was declared illegitimate and executed on Octavian's orders, removing the last potential rival to his rule. You see, Cleopatra's death didn't just mark the end of the Ptolemaic dynasty, it also marked the end of an era in the ancient Mediterranean world. The Roman Republic transitioned into the Roman Empire under Octavian, who became its first emperor, Augustus Caesar. Chapter 7: Cleopatra's Legacy. I've always been fascinated by Cleopatra's story, which has been immortalized through countless works of art, literature, and film. However, as I delved deeper into her life, I realized that myths and misconceptions often obscure the truth. Cleopatra was not just a seductive beauty, she was also a highly educated and skilled ruler who navigated complex political landscapes to maintain her power. I was struck by how, under Cleopatra's reign, Alexandria remained a vibrant and thriving center of culture, learning, and commerce. Her rule marked the end of an era, as Egypt would never again regain its former glory as an independent kingdom. As we've explored Cleopatra's life together, we've seen triumph, tragedy, and enduring intrigue. Her story continues to captivate us as we strive to understand the complexities of this extraordinary woman who shaped the course of history. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the life of Cleopatra VII, the last pharaoh of ancient Egypt. If you enjoyed our time together painting Cleopatra's life, remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more fascinating past portraits. Until we paint again, keep discovering.